Hello, everyone. Hello. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. I think we have to wait a couple of minutes to start just to see if more people join in. But we are already 40 participants, so that's good.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Giulia.
Okay. And the camera, let me see.
Yeah. Now
Okay,
perfect.
okay. I was afraid it would not work today. I don't know why.
It's working. It's working.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
I think we are gonna wait just 2 more minutes maybe, and then we can start. Okay. Everybody can see my screen, right? I'm still sharing. Okay, perfect. I see that a lot of people are still joining in. Okay, 58 people. Let's wait 1 more minute, and then we can start. Okay. Let's see how many participants we have now. 60. Okay. So I think it's time to start because we have a very packed agenda and people can keep joining in, and my colleagues will let everyone in, I'm sure of it. So, okay, let's start. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this policy event titled Breaking the Cycle of Rural Decline. My name is Alicia Moreno, and I am a project manager at Euromontana, the European Association of Mountain Areas, and I will be moderating this event. The event is organized as part of the ESIRA project, which you will hear more about in just a few minutes. Before we get started, just a quick note, today's event is being recorded for internal and potential dissemination purposes. That's why all the cameras are switched off by default, but if you still want to have your name appearing in any recording, please, we kindly ask you to leave the meeting, and thank you very much for your understanding. On another note, we really encourage you to use the chat throughout the event. For example, you can already tell us where you're coming from, if you're coming from a rural area, which one it is, and what do you think that maybe are the biggest or the main challenges of rural areas. So after these 2 quick notes, I think overview. So here is what we can expect from today's meeting or webinar. So first of all, we will have a short presentation of the ESIRA project by the project coordinator, Sonia Marcos. Then we will have 2 presentations by the ESIRA team, one of them on the drivers of rural vulnerability by Kinga Tóth from HÉTFA Research Institute in Hungary, and the other one titled Reimagining Rural Areas, the Contribution of the Social Economy by Giulia Galera from EURICSE in Italy. After that, we are happy to have Anders Bro from the region Örebro country in Sweden. He will be talking about policy gaps and challenges that hinder social economy initiatives in rural areas. And after that, we will have short Q&A session. And after the questions have been answered, we will move on to a coffee break so that we have some time to stretch our legs, grab something to eat or to drink, and come back refreshed for our policy panel. Which we will be joined by Anastasia Costantini from the European Commission's Directorate General for Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion, also known as DG Employment, and also by Mr. Ádám Karácsony, who is the Vice President of the County Council of Pest Barmegye in Hungary. I hope I said that right, and if not, apologies. And he is also a member of the European Committee of the Regions and the rapporteur on demographic change. After the policy panel, we will open the floor again for some questions, and we will wrap it up with some closing remarks. So now I think it's time for our first presentation. Let me check how many people. We have 70 people. That's nice. So Sonia, you are the first one to have the floor. I will introduce you briefly. So Sonia is an associate professor and researcher in the Faculty of Economics and Business Studies at the University of Burgos in Spain, and she's also the director of the Center for Cooperation and Solidarity Action of the University of Burgos, and an active contributor to rural development projects. And today she has joined us as a project coordinator and co-lead of the ESIRA project. So Sonia, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for this important workshop. I want to thank Alicia for the introduction. Thank you also to the workshop speakers and all of you for being here to discuss the policy issues related to the social inclusion and the social economy in rural areas. And you can see in the slide, ESIRA is a 4-year project with 15 partners from 8 European countries. ESIRA aims to enhance social inclusion through innovative social economy initiatives. Our approach is bottom-up, working with multi-actor platforms, engaging multiple stakeholders, and focusing on place-based social innovation. We are currently working in 9 rural areas, 9 pilots across 7 European countries. In the next slide, we can see that the project is organized in 4 phases. The main objective of ESIRA is to contribute to developing innovative place-based social economy initiatives for social inclusion in rural areas, by supporting enabling frameworks, well-connected policies, and piloting innovative solutions. During the first year of the project, the first phase of this project, we have analyzed and better understood the context and challenges of social exclusion in European rural areas. We also compare and evaluated the effectiveness of policies, services, and initiatives to empower vulnerable groups and address rural challenges in our 9 pilots. The result is a collection of 7 country reports that you can find on our website. Also, a comparative study of social exclusion and a multi-level analysis of social economic initiatives in rural areas will be published soon on our website. Thanks to our pilot projects, this better understanding of the current situation allows us to promote effective support mechanisms for rural areas, identify practices, and formulate policy recommendations. In the next slide, you can see the future outcomes and impacts of ESIRA in the next years. But today, we are here at our first policy workshop, where we are starting to build the first ESIRA's key impact pathway, a better understanding of the needs and barriers of vulnerable people in rural areas, which will lead to further tangible improvements in public policy. With today's discussion, with today's debate, we are embarking on a pathway to improving the understanding of policymakers at different levels, improving policies and governance frameworks for social inclusion, and helping design better policies for the long-term sustainability of the rural areas. ESIRA's work is particularly important in identifying gaps and synergies in current policies. It aims to expand the governing space by including non-traditional actors, such as social economy stakeholders, and impelling collective governance processes driven by public institutions and self-organized rural communities. Our mission is to contribute to improving living conditions and opportunities for vulnerable groups in rural areas. So let's go to work. Again, thank you for your participation. Well, let's go with the presentations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sonia, for the nice overview that you gave about the ESIRA project and how the final aim is to support the rural communities and the vulnerable groups and, break in the end this cycle of rural decline that we will talking about today a lot. So building on this, I'm pleased to introduce our next speaker, Kinga Tóth from HÉTFA Research Institute. She will be talking about the drivers of rural vulnerability. So Kinga is the Deputy Research Director of HÉTFA Research Institute in Hungary, where she takes part in research and evaluation projects, social policies, youth development policies, and education. And apart from her work at HÉTFA, she's also a youth worker in a community space in Budapest, where she works with young people studying vocational education. So, Kinga, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. I really hope that you can hear me. So a very brief context of the report, as you see that I would like to talk briefly about the main lessons we learned from our baseline research regarding the pilot areas in the ESIRA project. As Sonia has mentioned, there is 9 pilot areas in the ESIRA project, and in the beginning of the project, we have carried out a set of research in order to set a sort of baseline to see what is the situation in these areas that we are working in. Part of this research were concerned about what is the living conditions, the challenges, and the assets in these areas, and the other part of the research was concerned with the social economy. There is a really, really vast literature on rurality, territorial disadvantages, territorial inequalities, and vulnerability. I will not delve into that, but I would like to mention 2 notions, and the next slide is one of them, which is the so-called cycle of rural decline, which is a process, which means that when in a rural area, it can happen that the convergence of multiple challenges they face, it creates a self-reinforcing cycle of decline. So when the population is shrinking, it usually goes hand in hand with declining incomes. Then As a result, the public and private services start to weaken. Local and national governments cannot maintain public services, certain kind of public services. Private services close because they cannot make it anymore. So there are fewer people there, and they have to compensate for the disappearing services, which creates a situation when there is a huge incentive for the people living there that they would like to move away somewhere, because it's not feasible, it's not good, they cannot make living there anymore, which can cause an even greater outward migration, which can cause an even smaller population, and so on. It's a vicious cycle. And the real question is that what role can local and national governments and policymakers play in supporting these communities to break this cycle? This is one of the notions, and the other one in the next slide is what we have used as an analytical framework for the synthesis report, is the drivers of rural vulnerability. It's based on an ILO employment working paper, which identify the factors that may influence vulnerability of a territory. Vulnerability in this sense means that, for example, a community cannot cope or cannot mitigate a crisis situation. So this report has identified a lot of different factors which can influence vulnerability, and then categorized those in three big clusters: socioeconomic, governance and security-based, and environmental drivers of rural vulnerability. And this is what we have done also with what has been identified in the regional or the pilot reports, and created a bigger categories. In the next slide, there is a short summary in the most common or most important drivers of rural vulnerability in the ESIRA pilot areas. Most of the drivers that has been identified can be classified as socioeconomic drivers of rural vulnerability. Almost all pilot areas face some kind of demographic pressure. In most cases, this is an aging population. These communities, these areas have a more rapidly aging population than the average in the EU, and also depopulation and outward migration, negative migration balance. This is something which was really, really common in the pilot areas. Monetary poverty and social exclusion is also present in many areas, but the landscape is more varied in this sense, because there are some areas which almost all of the local community can be classified as someone at risk of poverty or social exclusion. In other areas, it concerns a smaller portion of the local community. It was also quite common driver that there is a lack of diversification of livelihood and job opportunities. In most cases, it means agriculture, forestry, or tourism. And tourism also mostly is built on natural heritage. But then again, these kind of livelihood opportunities or these economic structure can be really vulnerable to economic change, environmental change, and climate change, which can again create an additional vulnerability to these communities. In some pilot areas, it has been identified that local enterprises, for example, has poorer access to markets, or there are no investors in the area, or there are fewer enterprises than it would be beneficial for areas. And it can be linked to poorer access to public services as well. Access to public services, and especially access to social services, was identified as one of the key socioeconomic drivers of vulnerability. Most services are just too far away for the local communities. It's too far away, and it's too hard to reach them. The governance and security-driven drivers as a notion will mostly contain factors which is usually appears in countries with no stable government or with political or social upheaval. This is or a large number of refugees, for example. This is not the case in our pilot areas, but still there is some kind of there's some drivers which has been identified. One of these, which is really connected to the other set as well, is the poor access to healthcare or education. The nearest hospital, the nearest secondary or higher education institution is too far away for most people living in these areas. In some cases, it has been reported that there are complicated administrative frameworks in which can, in one sense, hinder new enterprises in these areas, or it can hinder young people getting help if they are in need, for example. And as I've mentioned, these set of factors has been created with the framework in mind that there can be a large number of, for example, refugees living indefinitely in an area. In the ESIRA pilot areas, this is not the case. There's mostly outward migration, but then again, there are some areas where there is migration, or there are refugees, mostly Ukrainian refugees. And the third big set of drivers were the environmental drivers. One of the key challenges or drivers identified there or here was the insufficient physical infrastructure. It means mostly the roads, which has been reported to have a poor condition. But in some areas, especially mountain areas, other challenges, for example, broadband, can cause problems. All of these pilot areas can be classified as a remote or isolated area, which in itself has a lot of challenges, for mostly with access to other services and with markets and investors. And in some cases, it has been identified the most classical part of environmental drivers, environmental hazards or pressures. Flood prevention in one case is an issue, earthquakes in another case, and in a broader sense, the balancing the local economic needs with local environmental protection can be challenging in most areas, especially those with yet untapped or yet untouched national heritage, for example. This is quite a diverse set of drivers of rural vulnerability, but not everyone in these communities are affected equally by these challenges. There are those who have a better chance to fight or mitigate these challenges, and there are those who might have systemic, they have some other issues. Due to this, they can be more affected by these challenges. So we have identified, each pilot area has identified the most vulnerable groups. And in the next slide, there's a figure containing the most common vulnerable groups in the pilot areas, most notably young people, especially those in a need status, those who are not in employment, education, or training. Young people living in these areas, for them, access to school, education, higher education, access to jobs, and access to leisure and to community can be a challenge due to remoteness. Women, and especially young mothers, another notable vulnerable group. For them, their child care and care duties and access to care services, in some cases, a more traditional gender roles and some discrimination they're facing due to those, and their access or lack of access to labor market can pose a challenge. And on the other end, elderly people were also identified as a vulnerable group, and as these societies are aging or these communities are aging, this is an even bigger and bigger group as time passes, because for them, access to services, health and care services, is really important and more important, and transport, which can be closely connected to access, is a very important challenge. As I've mentioned, these areas mostly face outward migration, but still there are some areas when there are immigrant communities or refugee communities. These people, a lot of times they face language barriers, and they have a harder time to integrate, which can also cause problems for them and for the hosting community as well. Another notable group of people who have been identified are disabled people, people with disability living in these areas. For them, access to services is also crucial, and in some areas they may face some kind of discrimination, which makes for them even harder to get jobs, for example, which can really hinder their participation in society. So these are the main groups that have been identified in the pilot areas as most vulnerable groups. Next slide, please. As I've mentioned, there's a lot of challenges in these areas. Aging, depopulation, poor access to crucial services, remoteness, and in many cases insufficient physical infrastructures. But there are also assets, things that can be built upon locally. One of the main point or the most important one is the already existing economic cooperation or the already existing social economy in the area. It was really important because in these areas, this is something that can be built upon, that there is a history for cooperation. In many pilot areas, stakeholders has expressed that they think that remoteness and isolation has their own not just challenge, but the potential as well, because they think that there's an untapped potential in tourism, mostly built on the local environmental heritage or natural heritage, and this is something which can be built upon, which can be developed into. As I've mentioned, in most areas, agriculture and forestry is the most important job opportunity. As I've mentioned, there are challenges related to that, but then again, they have vast historical and technical and technological tradition in these areas, which also gives them the potential for innovation in these areas, for example, and cultural traditions as well. These are foundations, these are assets that innovation, either social innovation or either social economy innovations can be built upon. And then again, nothing is going to happen in any community in the world if the people living there don't want to cooperate or don't want to take part in in the innovation. So it was very important that a lot of the pilot areas, there are already existing traces of local cooperation. There is some kind of local civil sector, which is really important, that there are people who want change, who can be proactive, who can be someone who works as a gateway to the larger community. And it's a really important asset, not just for the sake of the project, obviously, but for any kind of innovation in these communities. These were the very brief main conclusion from our synthesis report. And as I've mentioned, the second part of the research were concerned with social economy, and this will be the topic of the next presentation. And I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kinga. Thank you for explaining what the cycle of rural decline was. And also thank you for this overview of the drivers of rural vulnerability. I think that if we have other rural areas that are not part of the ESIRA project, they can also relate, and they probably have the same challenges and maybe also the same assets. So I would like to know from the chat, I would like them to say if they find areas. And also something you mentioned is that we really need like the local communities also involved and wanting to make the change. So I also wanted to ask the chat if they have find these challenges, how are they addressing them, and also how are they engaging these local communities. Maybe we get some nice replies in the chat. So thank you very much. And now moving on to the next presentation. I would like to pass the floor to Giulia Galera. She's a senior researcher at EURICSE. Her research activities focus on the social economy in the concept and the practice, and also in social entrepreneurship and their role in supporting the local development. She has coordinated many European projects, and she has also collaborated with very relevant international institutions, such as not only the European Commission and the European Parliament, but also the United Nations and the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. And she's also personally very active in this field because she's the president of a social enterprise called Miletu, which integrates asylum seekers and refugees and people with support needs into the workforce. So now, Giulia, the floor is yours. And
thank you very much, Alicia. I'm sorry I have to keep the camera off because I don't have a very good connection today. So I'm sorry for this. I apologize. So thank you very much. If you can show the slide. And yes, okay, I will briefly talk about the social economy and its and how to actually, and I will reflect a little bit on how to unlock its still to be harnessed potential. So the social economy is a very long-standing phenomenon, which is actually rooted in the capacity of local communities to self-organize and self-rely in order to address a number of challenges and needs arising in local communities, which, however, vary according to the different contexts. Cooperatives are, which are one of the components of the social economy, are more than 200 years old, and they emerged, for instance, to fight against rural poverty and also to fight against the harsh consequences of industrialization. The social economy nowadays is a very important socioeconomic player, and based on research we conducted recently at EU level, covering all 27 EU member states, you can find the report online. It's the ISMEA report of 2024. There are 4.3 million social economy organizations that operate in EU member states, which employ more than 11.5 people and have a turnover which exceeds 912 billion euros. But the social economy is at the same time also a very country-specific dynamic, which reflects the very diverse legal and cultural traditions that exist in EU member states. Next slide, please. Okay, there is, however, a red thread which connects the organizations that belong to the social economy. Indeed, the social economy covers entities that share a number of very specific principles, which include the primacy of people, as well as social and or environmental purposes over profit, the reinvestment of most of the profits and surpluses to carry out activities in the interest of members, users, or society at large, and the adoption of a democratic and or participatory governance. So we have witnessed over the years growing convergence in terms of adoption of this concept at EU level, even though the concept per se was initially created. It is actually French in origin, and it emerged to bring together cooperatives and associations and mutual aid societies. But thanks to the adoption, especially of the Social Economy Action Plan, which was delivered by the European Commission in 2021, actually we are witnessing a growing conceptual convergence at EU level. Next slide, please. Indeed, when we refer to the social economy, actually we consider a number of specific components that are part of it, which include, first of all, cooperatives, mutual benefit societies, associations, including charities, foundations, and social enterprises. Social enterprises are not, let's say, attached to a particular legal form, but they are a transversal dynamic which cuts across all the previously mentioned legal forms and also includes traditional enterprises when they actually comply with a number of specific criteria which are relevant for defining organization as social enterprise. So the social economy includes at the same time organizations that are market-oriented and organizations that are not market-oriented, and at the same time, organizations that emerge precisely to promote the interests of their members, such as, for instance, consumer cooperatives, agricultural cooperatives, worker cooperatives, and also organizations that emerge to promote specifically the general interest or the interest of particular vulnerable groups that live in particular areas. Next slide, please. So this slide is a tentative attempt. It's actually a three-dimensional diagram, as you can see, but it is an attempt to position the different legal forms that are part of the social economy, to position them in this diagram according to the based on the interplay among three different variables, which are, on the one hand, the degree of inclusiveness, which implies the capacity to engage different stakeholders having different relationship with the organization. Second, the general interest orientation, that is to say, the aim of the organization, which can be, as I said before, promoting the interest of the members of the organizations or promoting the general interest, which means pursuing an explicit social aim. And third variable, the economic and entrepreneurial relevance, that is to say, how much an organization is market oriented. So you can see in this diagram on top, up on the right position, the social enterprise ideal type, which is actually an organization that carries out economic activities, but these economic activities are pursued in order to pursue an explicit social aim. And this organization accomplishes this aim by engaging in its governing bodies different stakeholders having different relationship with the organization. So you can see highlighted in blue are all the organizations that belong to the social economy. And in green, those organizations that can be regarded as social enterprise, which is the social enterprise, as I highlighted a few minutes ago, a specific dynamic within the social economy. Out of the scope of the social economy are those organizations such as conventional enterprises, but also purpose-driven enterprises such as B corporations or B Corps or benefit corporations, which actually may pursue some social goals, but the pursuit of a social aim is not institutionalized, which means that they are not structured in order to address the needs of the community or the needs of specific vulnerable groups. So this is actually an attempt. So we have referred to the main legal forms that operate in the different European member states, including the ESIRA, of course, partner countries. But there are other forms that exist in specific countries, which of course are not mentioned in this three-dimensional diagram. You can go on to the next slide. So why is actually the role of the social economy relevant in rural areas? Because the social economy has actually the potential to face multiple challenges plaguing rural areas, which were well described by Kinga. So the social economy can contribute to breaking the cycle of rural vulnerability thanks to the holistic approach and the specific features it actually covers the social economy. So the different, let's say, organizations that belong to the social economy. And if we go to the next slide. Yeah, so we can now dig a little bit into the specific beneficial contribution that social economy organization this can generate on local development in rural areas. So this contribution can actually be seen from various perspectives. First, social economy organization, thanks to the economic activities they run, which are in many instances labor intensive, create new employment. Let's think, for instance, about welfare services. Of course, these services imply the engagement of a significant labor force. So they create employment, but at the same time, some social economy organizations, such as, for instance, labor cooperatives, are set up specifically to safeguard employment. And others, such as, for instance, work integration social enterprises, emerge to facilitate the work integration of disadvantaged and vulnerable people that are normally discriminated against by conventional enterprises. So vulnerable people that are excluded by the labor market, for instance, people with disabilities, but also people who bear other kinds of support needs. Second, social economy organizations contribute to filling gaps in general interest service delivery. So they can contribute to provide those services that are not accessible in rural areas. Not only social services, but also transport, in some cases, postal services, education and training, healthcare, housing, all kinds of services that are of crucial importance in areas which lack basic public services and facilities. Third, social economy organizations support a more, let's say, balanced use and allocation of resources that are available at a local level. And they do so thanks to the promotion of the wide participation of local stakeholders. In essence, thanks to their institutional features, social economy organizations have a role in empowering the local community in strategic decision-making. Fourth, social economy organizations contribute to ensuring the survival of key economic activities in the specific areas in which they operate. They increase, for instance, the weak market power of particular stakeholders, such as small producers, whose survival may be threatened by big producers. But at the same time, they can ensure the survival also of activities that would be doomed to close down. In some contexts, for instance, cultural activities, cinemas, theaters. Fifth, they engage local inhabitants in decision-making. So, well, by engaging local inhabitants in decision-making, social economy entities enable the management of common goods that would otherwise run the risk of being taken out of the control of local inhabitants. A case in point is in this respect, for instance, energy. Finally, social economy organizations contribute to strengthening social cohesion. So they contribute to building trust relations. And this is done thanks to the relational dimension of some of the services they supply, which incorporate a sort of social added value. But this is done also thanks to the particular participatory governance structure they adopt. If you may switch to the next slide. So this slide summarizes the key features and added value of social economy organizations. So why? So it is an attempt to explain why they would be better in providing for answers to the problems I mentioned beforehand. Because of, first of all, because of their features. Social economy organizations are not set up to pursue the interest of investors. So their aim is not to maximize profits, but their aim is to pursue goals other than profit, which may coincide with the promotion of the interests of their members, such as consumers, workers, farmers, or the members or of the entire community. So in a nutshell, social economy organizations have a, so to speak, problem-solving nature, which leads them to address multiple challenges and unmet needs arising in local communities, which, and this is very important, may change over time and space. Secondly, they adopt a very specific allocation principle, which is based on reciprocity and solidarity. So they display a sort of distributive function, which allows for the transferring of resources and benefits from producers to users, or from producers to the entire community. Third, they adopt participatory decision-making process, which means that in social economy organizations, ownership rights are not assigned to investors, but ownership rights and control rights are assigned to stakeholders different than investors. And the participatory structure they adopt contributes to the adoption of strategic decisions for the community on the one hand, and it also enables to attract resources that in many instances would not be allocated for welfare and development goals. So next slide, please. So to conclude, social economy organizations are increasingly recognized as potential vehicles for local development and social inclusion in rural areas. However, if we look at their diffusion and capacity to generate a beneficial impact, variations are very dramatic across member states for different reasons that maybe we can discuss later on during this workshop. So what are needed to unlock the potential of the social economy to address a number of key challenges in rural areas are effective strategies that may contribute to promoting a cooperative culture that is rooted in solidarity values. But what are needed are also strategies aimed at building capacities and skills. And what are needed are also targeted policies that recognize the specificity of the different components of the social economy. Because when we speak about the social economy, we refer to organizations that are distinguished by slightly different characteristics, as I tried to describe. So I say organizations that are aimed at promoting the interest of their members, but also organizations such as social enterprises that are set up to pursue the interests of the entire community or of particular vulnerable groups, such as, for instance, work integration social enterprises, which emerge to facilitate the work integration of people that would otherwise be excluded from the labor market. So what are needed are targeted policies that recognize the the different degree of social responsibility that is taken on by the different components of the social economy. Then what are needed are also strategies aiming to foster institutional cooperation and cross-regional knowledge exchange, such as, for instance, ESIRA project, which is a case in point of the attempt to understand the differences thanks to a learning process across the different rural contexts that are being researched and promoted. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Giulia, for this amazing overview of all the contributions that the social economy offers to local communities, from creating and safeguarding employment to tackling different needs that the community has and providing the specific services to cover these needs, while also strengthening the social cohesion. And it was very interesting also the last slide about what is needed to really unlock the potential of social economy initiatives. And yeah, I hope we can dive in a bit more on this during the policy panel. But now we've seen how the potential seems to be clear, but also the path to implementing these social economy initiatives is not without obstacles. So I will pass the floor now to the next speaker, Anders Bro, who will walk us through the main challenges that hinder the implementation of social economy initiatives in rural areas. Anders Bro is a policy officer at the region Örebro County in Sweden, and also an affiliated researcher at the Örebro University. He has previously been a member of the EU Commission's expert group for social economy and social entrepreneurship, and has extensive experience in development work in rural areas. So please, Anders, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Well, starting with social economy as a concept, most of you know perhaps that social economy became an official EU term in the 1980s, and several countries have incorporated social economy into different types of public policy documents during the years. And France, as you know, was one of the first countries in Europe. My connection is very bad, obviously. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I'll skip the camera.
Okay.
I'll skip the camera. And today, many countries have made significant progress in their efforts in putting social economy in the agenda. And Mrs. Galera mentioned the Social Economy Action Plan from the European Commission, and this has been era in Europe on social economy. And as you might know, the aim of this action plan, which came into place 2021, is to create the right framework conditions for the social economy to thrive, opportunities and support to capacity building and enhancing recognition of the social economy and its potentials. It's really, really important. And the next slide, please, Alicia. In November 2023, the Council of Ministers also presented its recommendations to the member states on social economy. And the recommendations emphasized the importance of integrating the social economy into national and regional policies for social economy. And the ambition was to provide guidance to member states on how public policies and legal frameworks could be tailored to support the actions of the social economy, particularly in areas where it was less developed, and how administrative and institutional structures could be adapted to support social economy entities and engage with social economy stakeholders. So the initiatives at EU level have been thorough. Both the Commission and the Council have emphasized the importance of policy development, but that does not mean that the social economy is now an obvious and prioritized part of national and regional policy development in different countries. If we look at the development so far, we see that there are large variations and that the policy development is progressing at different speed. So the next slide, please, Alicia. This is a slide from last year. And as you can see, most of the EU countries have some sort of social economy strategy in place on the national level, apart from Sweden, my own home country. And even if a full-scale inventory of regional strategies for the social economy within the European Union has not been carried out, we know that there are several regions that are excellent in this area, but we also know that there are many regions that do not emphasize the importance of social economy at all. To assess the process of developing social economy strategies, the Commission has identified a number of key building blocks, and these building blocks should be in place if the social economy is to be able to gain an accepted and prioritized place in addressing our societal challenges. If the building blocks are not in place, they will, by definition, become policy gaps and policy barriers. Social economy initiatives in general, and in particular for social economy in rural areas or otherwise where the social economy has a weak position. So let's take a look at these building blocks and possible policy gaps and barriers. So please, Alicia, the next slide. So the first building block is perhaps the most important one from a policy perspective: vision and objectives. If there's no vision for the social economy, defined and potential impact on society and the economy, the social economy will have to struggle to justify its identity and role. It's of particular importance that the vision, first of all, says something about the role of the social economy in rural areas, and secondly, that the vision is combined with concrete, actionable objectives and targets that translate this vision for rural areas into reality. Otherwise, it will be extremely difficult to provide a clear way forward with specific, measurable, and time-bound indicators to track progress in supporting social economy in rural areas. A second important building block is the administrative and institutional setup. Crucial for the effective support and coordination of social economy policies and initiatives. If the responsibility for supporting social economy initiatives in rural areas is placed with a weak administrative unit with limited resources, which is definitely not uncommon, there is a great risk that the initiatives will not receive the support they need. Missing public support for the social economy in a smaller administrative unit is that the initiatives risk being deprioritized and out between different administrative units. Stakeholder engagement and consultation is a third building block, and also a possible policy gap and barrier. Stakeholder engagement and consultation are considered the cornerstones of a successful social economy strategy. The vision and objectives, the design of the corresponding measures should build on the need analysis and consultation with stakeholders from the social economy. And this is often a major challenge for decision makers who need to develop forms of dialogue that are sustainable over time and based on mutual respect and understanding. So in order to make social economy initiatives in rural areas visible, it's important that specific such forums are established and given priority. Here, representatives of the rural social economy must be given the opportunity to be heard, and such a forum can create a strong common platform for individual initiatives. Unfortunately, forums like this are often lacking. Visibility and recognition of the social economy is of high priority. In many cases, the public sector has poor knowledge and a low understanding of the social economy. If there are no routines or working methods that improve knowledge and understanding of social economy in the rural areas, social economy initiatives risk not being sufficiently recognized and appreciated. It's important to use both statistics, basic data, combined with narratives and storytelling on rural social economy to truly create an understanding of the importance of these initiatives, and this is often neglected. The final building block is a monitoring and evaluation plan. A good monitoring plan starts with policy objectives that are specific, time-bound, and measurable. Selecting the right indicators is a crucial step. They need to be relevant and correspond to data that is feasible to collect and to the time frame for for achieving a given objective. Indicators of measurement often remain short-term and output-oriented, such as the number of people trained and employed by social economy entities, or the number of social enterprises created. And these are appropriate to monitor, but they give little information about the achievement of long-term objectives. So we need to get better at describing and analyzing the significance of social economy initiatives in rural areas for the development of the place and the region. So there is a lot to do here. All these building blocks are important. And if these building blocks don't exist, or if they are perhaps poorly developed, they automatically become policy gaps and barriers. As such, they can constitute obstacles to the social economy in general. But since rural areas are sometimes considered peripheral and less important than urban centers, the social economy in rural areas is particularly vulnerable if these building blocks are not in place. Identifying actual policy gaps for the rural social economy in especially regional contexts are of vital importance. And Alicia, the next slide, please. Identifying policy gaps is one thing. Addressing them and perhaps correcting them is something else entirely. Regardless of whether it's a regional development strategy, a regional strategy for the social economy, or a strategy for rural development, these strategies are revised at certain intervals, and that is when a window of opportunity is a time and place where we have the opportunity to adjust and revise policy gaps and challenges. And to be successful in these policy revisions, a number of conditions are required, including that there is a political interest in changing the policy direction, that you are given the opportunity to participate early in the revision work, and that there are no other or few competing interests that might want to retain the policy in its current form. So in summary, there are a number of policy gaps and challenges that might hinder social economy initiatives in rural areas, but there are also great opportunities to adjust them. But that's probably a topic for another webinar or seminar. So I stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anders. It was indeed, we would like to know more about the opportunities that also exist, and maybe it's something to be addressed in future workshops. Thank you very much for guiding us through this presentation. I also think the presentation of Giulia and yours are very important to set the tone for the policy panel that will happen in a few minutes. But now I'm seeing that we are running a bit late on schedule. So I would like to open the floor to the audience, and they can ask any questions. So please raise your hand, or if you're too shy, you can also write in the chat and we will try to pick it up. For this part, I'm gonna hand it over to my colleagues because as I'm sharing the screen, I cannot really see who raises their hand or the chat. So Guillaume, would you mind taking care of this for the moment?
Of course. Thank you, Alicia. While people are getting less shy, I have a question that came up in the chat a while ago from Isabel. So the question is, for Giulia, it's in the current play of North, is the third sector equal to the social economy? So I think it's a very conceptual question. So
shall
yes,
I respond now? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Of course, used to define organizations that are neither public nor profit-oriented, and different countries use different concepts. So in Italy, for instance, and the UK, the concept of third sector is quite wide. As in other countries, it is almost unused. But of course, we have to make a distinction between the theoretical concept and because if we look at the concept of for instance, reference is made exclusively to organizations that pursue general interests. So the social economy and the third sector do not overlap. If we use the legalized concept of the third sector, but if we look at the literature, there are some authors that refer to the third sector as a concept, as a more neutral concept that was aimed 20 years ago, was developed to refer to organizations that are not public and not profit oriented. But again, we have to make this distinction between the theoretical concept and the legalized concept, which can vary across countries. I don't know if it is sufficient, but you may answer. I can read because the chat disappeared from my screen. I don't understand why.
No worries. I see the question. Very happy with the answer.
Okay.
Many thanks. Very clear is the reply. So thank you so much for that. I still don't see any hand raised for a verbal interaction, so I will pick up another question from the chat. Great similarities between the social economy and social innovation in rural areas. Do you think the same? And does the social economy require more specific policy measures? So I think this is more economic. I just know if any of you would like to volunteer to that. Again, are we seeing similar policy gaps between social economy and social innovation in rural areas?
I can continue. I can start. With a short answer, I would say that this is most likely similar cases because, at least from the Swedish perspective, social innovation, we often talk about the importance of social innovation and that many innovative ideas comes from the social economy or the civil society, which is a concept often being used in Sweden, relating to the previous question. So being a sector that is highly invisible in Sweden, it also gives consequences to the policy gaps relating to innovation. So for us in Sweden, it's definitely, they come hand in hand.
If I may add, of course, there are differences across countries, which are, as the previous speaker specified, that are very relevant. But I think that when we refer to the social economy, it should be highlighted that reference is made to specific institutions, which show specific features, whereas the social innovation is more a trend, which can also be cross-cutting across different sectors. So it's not necessarily an institution, but it can only refer to a product, to a service, or to a specific trend.
Yeah, I would like to add also.
Please go ahead.
Yes, I think that social innovation is more related to the participative process with society, and the social economy perhaps is more related to the legal form and the objectives of the institutions, as Giulia said.
Thank you for the clarification. Is there any other question? I think we have 1 or 2 more minutes for the Q&A session before being back on track with the timing. I still don't see any hand raised. If you're trying and somehow it doesn't work, please let us know in the chat. It's a crowd of 90 shy people, I see. But it's okay. If you have questions for later, you can always leave them in the chat and we'll pick them up next time we have a chance. Alicia, I think I hand over to you as we are running out of questions.
Yes, thank you. So I think that if there are no more questions, the break was scheduled for 11:15. So I think we can go stretch our legs and grab something to eat. or to drink, and then we can come up fresh for the policy panel, which will be at 11:30. So we will see you then. See you. Have a nice break.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back, and sorry for the delay. We are trying to contact one of the speakers. I just called him, and he's having difficulties to connect to the webinar. So he asked if we can take 10 more minutes for him to fix his laptop and see if he can connect. So if everyone is okay with that, we can wait for maximum 10 minutes, and if not, we have to do it without him, sadly. If that's okay. I don't know, Guillaume, what do you think? Should we wait?
Yeah, I think we can wait maximum 5 minutes, and then maybe we can start with the other panelists. In the meantime, if you want, we could also have a look at a couple of comments that were in the chat earlier on.
Yes.
They were not questions, but they were comments. So we had a comment from Pedro Fernandez saying that when it comes to challenges for rural areas in terms of social economy, he said that the diagnosis that was presented before maybe lacks the is connecting.
Yes, he's connecting.
The diagnosis did not really take into account the housing and employment problems in rural areas. So indeed, there are known issues, especially in mountains, which is where your Montana is very familiar with. But it could be interesting later on if we have more time for Q&As to get back to this issue of housing and employment as maybe a framework condition for the overall issue of social economy. But I hand over to you, Alicia, because I think now everybody's here.
Yeah, I think everybody's here. So
Hello.
Thank you very much. Hello, Adam.
Good morning. Sorry for I have some technical problems in my laptop, but luckily I have my tablet with me. So I hope you can see me and hear me.
Yes, we can hear you perfectly and see you too. So thank you very much for connecting, even in these circumstances. So now that you're here, I think it's time to start our policy panel on the future of social economy and territorial development policies. I will introduce the two speakers for today. Mrs. Anastasia Costantini, she's representing DG Employment, so the European Commission's Directorate General for Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion. And I would kindly ask you to also connect your camera if possible and your mic for the policy panel. She works in the implementation of the European Code of Good Conduct for Microcredit Provision and contributes to the, sorry, can we unmute? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, as I was saying, she works for the employment and the implementation of the European Code of Good Conduct for Microcredit Provision and contributes to the policy topic of the social economy in rural areas. And before joining the European Commission, she was a senior expert on social economy with a focus on sustainability-related issues such as circular economy, agri-food systems, rural development, and social innovation. So I want to welcome Anastasia to the panel. And then we also have Mr. Ádám Karácsony. He's the Vice President of the County Council of Vármegye in Hungary. I hope I said that right, and if not, apologies. And he's also a member of the European Committee of the Regions, and he is appointed a rapporteur for demographic change, and also a member of the CIDIC Commission of the Committee of the Regions, which focuses on social policies, education, employment, and social economy, among others. So thank you very much to both of you for being here. And Anastasia, can you connect your camera too? Or are you having any trouble? Okay.
No, I did it.
Okay, perfect. Because I cannot see you, so sorry, sorry for that. So if you are both ready, we can start with the first question. I'm gonna drink a bit of water first. So the first question is for Mrs. Costantini. We have heard in the previous presentations about the social economy action plan, and also about the council recommendations that were developed in 2023. So I would like to ask you if you could tell us what progress has been made in the member states in this sense, and what can we expect for the coming months, and also specifically to rural areas, if you think that or if you see that the member states are taking the challenges of rural areas into account when updating or designing the policies to support social economy. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question. And so, as you know, the social economy remain a priority for the European Commission and for the Executive Vice President Minzato. And so since the adoption of the Social Economy Action Plan in the 2021, for the moment, I'm pleased to say that most of the 63 actions included in the plan have been implemented or are currently underway. So in that sense, now looking ahead, the Commission has started the midterm review of the Social Economy Action Plan, and that will be adopted in the 2026. And this review is really quite important because it helps us to do two main things. First, so access the progress and the lesson learned. And also the second part of this midterm review is to really proposing a new action for the future. In fact, in the coming days, we will launch a call for evidence. So it will be a moment where stakeholders, member states, social economy actors will be invited to contribute and so to be able to shape together the next phase of our work together. And this is very, very linked, as you said, and also in the previous speakers say, with the Council recommendation adopted in November 2023, where one of the main points was really that member states should develop or update their national strategy for the social economy by the end of the 2025. And also for that, we will do a monitor of this in the 2027 and then in the 2022. So in really to understand what is going on the member states. And the recommendation is also recalls that social economy can really alleviate and help the demographic and economic challenge in remote and rural areas. So with the people with fewer opportunities. So it's really encouraged the member states to support the social economy also in the development of the rural area. And to do some example of the progress in the member states, we can see that in Ireland, Germany, Slovakia, Greece, they have adopted the new strategy since the 2023. Also, Spain launched the new social economy strategy for 2023-2027 and approved the law, the comprehensive law of social economy. Also, Cyprus amended its social enterprise law. And this here also checked Basel law on social enterprise. Luxembourg is working on their strategy, and really 2 weeks ago, they adopted during this global government summit the Luxembourg Declaration of Social Innovation, including the social economy. And so we can see that the things are moving, especially in the member states. And if we want to focus also on the specifically onto the rural area, to back to the question, we should also talk about the long-term vision of rural area adopted in the 2021. So like, in parallel of the Social Economy Action Plan, where there was they identify social economy as one of the key actors. In the context in the Rural Action Plan includes flagship of entrepreneurship and social economy. They put in place a lot of concrete action, like a dedicated webinar showcasing good practice, a community group on the platform about the social economy. And also this project on the horizon. So there was a lot of call linked to social inclusion, rural area, and social economy. And now all of them, I think, that helped the member states to start to thinking about the link between social economy and the rural development. And for instance, in the 2023 in France, we have this program, the France Ruralité, where is a focus for social entrepreneur. So it's a comprehensive national strategy for rural rehabilitation with a focus for the social entrepreneurs. In Romania, last year, they launched a specific call under the operational program of inclusion and social dignity, and the focus was developing social enterprises startup in rural area for creating job for marginalized group, or also in Ireland in their rural future strategy is explicitly recognized the social enterprise as one of the actors of the rural development, and here they announced to give some 2 million in funding for social enterprise. So as you can see, yes, we will do a progress, and I can see here by here that the link between rural development and social economy is growing.
Thank you for this update on what the member states, the different member states are doing and how they are trying to integrate social economy in their policies. I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned the midterm review of the Social Economy Action Plan that will be adopted in 2026, and you said that you would like to assess the progress and also the lessons learned, but also you would like to have like an action like for the future, like a vision. And you said we will be invited, like in general, to contribute. But when do you think this contribution period will be open, and who is welcome to?
Yes. It will very soon, as I said, in the coming days. So in coming weeks, it will be announced, and it will be really an evidence where really need the support of the stakeholder member states, really to share what achieved so far, but also to have how to go ahead. So to have also new proposal, new action that we can think about for the future of the social economy.
Okay, thank you. And would it be like a selection process or something to select the people that will be working on this, or is it still not?
It will be explained in the next week.
Okay.
I cannot say more at the moment, but it will be planned to launch in the really in the few weeks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We will look forward to it for sure, at least from ESIRA, and I'm sure that a lot of participants are also interested in this. So now I would like to turn to Mr. Karácsony and also ask him a question. The Committee of the Regions has long been a strong voice for local and regional development, and I would like to ask you, or I would like you to explain how the Committee of the Regions is supporting the social economy in the current policy discussions, and also if you could highlight just one thing, what would you say that is the most important contribution that the social economy brings to the rural development? Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, thank you for the invitation. It's my pleasure to be with you today, even if online. Well, according to the Committee of the Regions, we are commonly saying that since we are close to the citizens, we have a chance to meet good best practices all across the European regions. And regarding the social economic aspects, as previously it was told, I would create a strong link between rural development and demography, and let the people live in their place of origin. And there is a saying that right not only to move, but right to remain. We commonly use this expression due to the recent reports that had been made. And as you said, indeed, the Committee of the Regions has long been an advocate for local and regional development. we actively support the social economy agenda in various ways. We work alongside European institutions and organizations to promote the social economy by emphasizing its crucial role in sustainable and inclusive growth. This sector's growing interest is a reflection of the urgent need for an economy that balances social, economic, and financial dimensions. This type of economy does not solely measure wealth in terms of financial capital, but also in social capital, impacting all EU regions, including those that are rural or remote. The regions' contributions also include participation in discussions around the social economy action plan and the midterm review of the plan. And we encourage synergies between social economy actors and local to ensure policies are aligned and promote greater collaboration across sectors. Furthermore, we as the Committee of the Regions advocate for regulatory simplification and the allocation of European funds to help social economy actors access necessary financial resources.
Thank you very much for this answer. I really like how you highlighted that social economy is not just about economic value, but also about building a stronger and more vibrant communities that also that people want to remain in them. But I would like for you to tell us, if you could choose just one thing, what do you think is the biggest added value that the social economy brings to the rural development in terms of making these regions more inclusive, more resilient, or just more attractive for people to stay or return if they have left?
Yes, when I was thinking about do I know best practices, what I could share with you, I reminded myself to one best practice in my regions, that is public benefit associations in two small villages close to Budapest. I mean, not really close, but in the region, in my regions, where they collaborate with Roma communities. And why is it considered an innovative social economy initiative? I ask myself. And firstly, it's because of the labor market integration, because that organization has applied a social cooperative model, engaging local Roma residents, gardening, handicrafts, cleaning services, offering marketable products and services. And secondly, I would say comprehensive development, because their economic activities are complemented by educational programs, mentoring, and community building initiatives. I think that is a key feature of social innovation. And thirdly, local embeddedness. All initiatives are locally implemented based on local needs and involve community members in decision-making process. So I found this example because I believe it shows how social economy tools can be used in a disadvantaged rural community to create opportunities and stimulate economical activity.
Thank you very much for sharing these best practices. And in relation to this, I also want to launch a question to Mrs. Costantini that is very related to this. We talk about how important it is the social economy is for integration in the labor market, of vulnerable groups, also how this economic activity is also complemented by education and fosters social cohesion. And I wanted to ask you, Mrs. Costantini, that given that the social economy is first and foremost about the benefits for the community and not really the economic, let's say, profit or financial returns, what place does it have now in the new priorities of the European Commission? So do you see a clash between competitiveness and well-being, or do you think they can complement each other?
Okay, so about it, so we know that at the moment, one of the priorities to promoting the social market economy to foster sustainable growth, social justice, and also this economic competitiveness. Social economy, we should consider that the social economy plays a role because it puts people first, placing common good above profit. So it is a clash or not. For me, and also now what we can see, social economy contribute to the competitiveness in several ways. Because if we consider the how to say, the competitiveness is outperforming through innovation, productivity, quality, and also adaptability. Now, those are sometimes some how to say, indicators. And if we consider social economy also in that sense, we can see on quality, for instance, social economy produce sustainable goods, high quality, short supply chain. If we consider, especially the rural area, how to say, take a look, food cooperative or a small-scale agricultural initiative, social enterprise that provide sustainable product while reinforce the bond between producer and community. If we consider adaptability, we have many type of example under social enterprise that can do that. This, for instance, community-based enterprise, or from Italy, cooperative di comunità. So they are responsive to the changes of the local needs. They offer multi-service solution, from providing job to vulnerable groups, delivering social support or other service like also childcare and so on. And about innovation, for me also, this aspect of the work integration, social enterprise, or the WISEs, they are something that is very under the social innovation, in the sense that they converge both objective about also this the enterprise side with inclusive employment, with this pedagogical dimension that they have. So for me, when we talk about social economy and competitiveness, we can talk about prosperity to go ahead. And if you look also the competitive compass, they highlight this social fair practice are seen to drive the robust economy. But also, we can see in the message of the Draghi report about productivity and social inclusion must advance together, like in the European Pillar of Social Rights, but also in the Letta report, that social economy is essential for strengthening the single market and promoting jobs. So if we look also at the political guideline that we had last autumn, supporting people, strengthen our society and our social model, Europe's unique competitive advantage. So people are always put in this, how to say, in this dialogue. And I think that social economy can represent this aspect.
Thank you very much for your answer. It was very clear that they go hand in hand. And I think we, from our project, we are very happy to hear that the social economy is really key in this aspect, and is also it plays a major role in competitiveness, as you said, and also in terms of making like sustainable development and more quality sustainable products, short supply chains, and so on. I think that I also want to highlight that you mentioned the word prosperity. So I think that's also like one key takeaway that we can take home from this. And now I will turn again to Mr. Karácsony and ask him about that we have heard today how the social economy and the social entrepreneurship, also the work integration social entrepreneurs enterprises, can help address the challenges in rural areas. And from your point of view, do you think this is sufficiently present in the political conversations that are taking place now, for example, in relation to the cohesion policy after 2027?
Well, I can see that social economy is getting gain attention in political conversation, particularly in the context of rural revitalization and territorial development. However, I believe there is still work to be done to ensure it is fully integrated into mainstream policy discussions. In the ongoing talks about the post-2027 cohesion policy, social economy organizations are seen as a key partner, key player in shaping more inclusive and resilient communities. By offering innovative solutions to local development challenges, the social economy plays a critical role in achieving the goals set by the EU's territorial development strategies. That said, we believe there is a need for a stronger emphasis on the role of the social economy within rural revitalization policies. More visibility and awareness are required to unlock its full potential. And we, as the Committee of the Regions, we are continuing to advocate for the inclusion of the social economy actors in these discussions and calls for better coherence between EU policies and the specific needs of rural and local and rural areas.
Thank you very much. Just to follow up, you mentioned that that it's gaining attention, but still more work needs to be done, and that from the Committee of the Regions, you're really trying to push for it. Can I ask you how specifically you're trying to make this push for the social economy to have more visibility in terms of how it contributes to rural revitalization and territorial development? Is there anything specific that you can share with us?
Yeah, I would point out to our latest report. It was on social economy, and where the rapporteur was Ricardo Riu, our Portuguese colleague. And we all know that from, and also from his report and from other sources, that and the social economy organizations include non-profit organizations as well, mutual societies, associations and foundations and social enterprises. And in our opinion, we pointed out there are 2.8 million social economy enterprises, and most of them are small and medium enterprises, and these are representing the 10% of all business in the EU, and that means almost 13 or 13.6, I would say 14 million people. That is more than 6% of the EU's employees work for social economy enterprises. And on the top of the paid workforce, social economy mobilizes volunteers equivalent to 5.5 million full-time workers. So I would point out to our opinion made on this issue.
Thank you very much. I have more questions, but I've seen that in the chat there might also be some questions, and I would like to open the floor now for questions. If then we have a bit more of time, I can maybe ask a last one, but I think it's more important to let the audience participate as well in this panel. So Guillaume, if you want to take over, feel free.
Thank you. So indeed, in the chat, we just had a question, so the timing is excellent. The question is not directly to one specific panelist. It could even be relevant to the previous speakers. And it is about the link between the development of social economy and the capacity of the municipalities or local authorities in general. The question is where we have local authorities that are strong, well-resourced, and at appropriate local scale, there is less need for civil society to step in and fill gaps. Is this relationship researched in the sense that are we trying to promote civil society filling the gaps, or are we also promoting increased capacity from the local authorities to avoid civil society to have to step in the first place? So how is this balanced? So maybe first we could ask if the panelists have any opinion on that, and then we could maybe open the floor to the previous speakers if they are still around.
Who does? Okay, Giulia, you want to go first?
No. They can go first.
Okay.
I'm just. I can wait for sure. I can wait.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask one of the panelists if you want to reply to this question. Yes.
Thank you. Not specifically this question, but I reminded myself other best practice that was told that the short supply chains are very important. We have another best, or can I say, good practice, which operates primarily in the area of Budapest, but has strong rural connections through its cooperation with small producers from the region. And we have exactly what we need: short supply chains. At the same time, it's a social and environmental mission. I can tell you that this community connects the local farmers who are living in the region, and sells their products through a community supported shop and an online platform. And this initiative helps to keep sustainable food consumption, and at the same time it supports the local economy. I just wanted to add this another best practice.
Maybe if I can add also something, I don't know about, because in the question also they are asking for, how to say, research, if there are some research, but in my, how to say, experience also in the past as an expert on social economy, what we observed is, as there is also a comment about it, that is exactly the third sector emerged to face uncovered needs, is true. But also what I can observe is in the local authority where there is a strong commitment, the social economy organization and this type of entity really have this type of to say role to make a bridge between the local authority and, in any case, the citizen. So sometimes it's to uncover, to cover some needs, but sometimes it's really to help the local authority, even if they are very, very committed to implement some service.
Giulia, thank you very much. Giulia, would you like to react also on this question before we move on to the next?
Yes, thank you very much. I fully agree with what Anastasia Costantini just said. And I think the way to go is to enhance collaborative relations between local authorities and social economy entities, including social enterprises. And I think in this respect, Italy is a case in point of the attempt to go beyond the competitive paradigm that has actually distinguished relationships between social enterprises and local authorities, in the contracting out of welfare services. So in Italy, since 2017, we have a new legal institution, which is shared administration, which presupposes that third sector entities pursue a general interest aim, which is similar to the one pursued by local authorities. And this explains why they should collaborate also in identifying jointly the need that must be addressed in local communities, and together co-design possible strategies to address these needs. So the shift should be from a competitive towards a collaborative paradigm.
Thank you. And if I may, I have another question from the chat that I would like to share. So it's a question for the panelists. Do you think social economy actors have the capacity to fully replace public services, or is there a limit to their potential? So it's a very good follow-up to the previous one. Maybe more on the focus of, again, finding the balance between how much is too much and what are the limitations. Maybe you can hear from both panelists on this.
But I can start. So, no, I think that also the scope of the social economy is not to replace the public service, but as I said, Giulia, before, really is to find a way to really to cooperate and to collaborate. So for me, it's something that is more complementary to the public service that should be stay there. Of course, they can do something, but really something. So if I can say, not to really to replace the public service, but to work together, and not also out to just to provide service, but maybe to co-create something together, starting from the beginning. So for the designing phase.
Yeah, this is also my opinion that somehow the cooperation should be fostered and strengthened, and to avoid the competition. So I believe there is a need for public services indeed, but I know some good initiations that are kind of complementary service. For instance, I know personally an organization which helps to integrate people with disabilities to the labor force. And of course, there's a need for public institutions as well to foster their reintegration to the labor market. But combine this with a social economy organization, it really works well. That's what I experienced.
Thank you very much. There are no more questions for the moment. There was just an extra comment in the chat about the relevance of the work of the REVES network as regards to getting local authorities and social economy actors to work together. So, and I think the answers received were welcome in the chat by participants. Alicia, I hand over to you as I don't have any more questions to share.
Okay. I have a last question for both speakers, and I think we're in time to answer it. So if you look at the current policies for social economy in rural areas, what do you think that is working well, and what do you think that needs to be improved, assuming we are in a perfect world and we can shape future policies without constraints? So what would you keep and what would you try to change?
Well, I would say that the current policies for social economy and rural areas should focus on greater integration and alignment between social economy initiatives and mainstream economic development strategies. The policies that work well include the social economy action plan, which has helped raise awareness and bring stakeholders together. And the European Year of Skills is also a valuable initiative that encourages the development of skills within the social economy sector, helping actors transition to greener, and we can see green transition and digital transition. So I would go that way. However, there are still gaps in access to finance and regulatory frameworks. We need more supportive legal structures and clearer, more straightforward access to European funds.
Anastasia, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, I agree with my colleague, but I want also to underline that, as we say, that we are seeing some very interesting, honestly, action, like for instance, also the rural action plan, as announced in February in the recent vision for agriculture and food, will be updated in the 2025. So this is really in line also with, as I said before, the midterm review for the social economy action plan. So this is could be an opportunity to reinforce the social economy ecosystem. And also the common agricultural policy offer opportunity to support social enterprise and startup, the CAP network. I think now that something was done and still doing, and to have the space, especially the link, if we talk about the link between the rural area and social economy, it will be, to say, in the future, now we will have this new instrument like a social climate fund that could be a possibility, for the member states, maybe to support energy community on that case, and can have an impact on the rural area. So if something, I think that we have something that is working, and for now it could be a driver for a prosperity and innovation. And of course, we should integrate social economy more systematically, in the sense that, as we said, we have to work a lot on legal framework, also in data statistics, to better understand really the ecosystem. And also for that we have the council recommendation that is focused on these type of things, also access to finance and so on. So I would say that we are putting in place some interesting and useful things, and we should do a bit more, but we have a framework to do, for instance, the council recommendation for the next year.
Thank you very much to both of you for sharing these insights. We have still time for another question. I don't know if anyone in the audience or in the chat wants to join. And okay, Sonia, please.
Thank you, Alicia. Well, no, it's only a comment related to a previous comment in the chat about the capacity of the social economy actors to replace public services. I would like to comment that, of course, policymakers have to give voice and to listen to the social economy actors, given the potential that social economy has to solve the problems in rural areas. But I think that the responsibility should not be totally in the social economy actors. I think that, of course, the responsibility is on the governments to provide public services, precisely to avoid the gap between rural and urban context. And I think that is too much responsibility to social economy in rural areas to try to provide of the public services, of course. Well, I believe in a collaborative model between public institutions and social economy actors, as Giulia Galera said before.
Thank you, Sonia, for sharing. I Oh, I completely agree with you, of course. And I don't know if any of the panelists would like to comment on, to add something to Sonia's comment, or no? I see
Otherwise, we do
yeah.
have a question in the chat indeed.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt, Alicia.
No worries.
So the question is for the European Commission. You mentioned the vision for rural areas, the CAP and other policies. How can we also ensure that the next EU budget supports the social economy and rural areas?
Good question in the sense that is still an ongoing process, so we are not able to give some more details about it, but for sure, as I said, if we are implementing all the, as to say, the mid-term review, also the update of the Rural Pact for sure is in one of the policy priority. But in terms of budget, it's an ongoing process.
Okay, so no preview of the next MFF today in this call.
Today, no, I cannot say more.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other question, Alicia, for the moment.
Okay, so thanks for replying. We hope to have some insights for the MFF, but next time maybe. So Sonia, I'm sorry to put you on the spotlight, but since you already commented, I also wanted to ask you a question, if you agree with it. So as project coordinator of ESIRA, and after all that we've heard today, what do you think is the main factor that can help truly break this cycle of rural decline?
Well, thank you, Alicia. Well, there are a lot of factors, and today we have a lot of information. But well, if I have to choose one key question, is the urgency that policymakers work on the vulnerability drivers. I think, as Kinga said in the preview, in the first presentation of the workshop, there are several vulnerability drivers related to the socio-economic factors, governance, security, and environmental factors, and there is an urgency to work on the job opportunities, the access to the public services in rural areas, such as the healthcare, education, and also to try to work on the physical infrastructures in the rural areas. I think that is now at this moment one of the key questions to try to avoid the declining of the rural areas. And of course, the of the vulnerable groups that are living there.
Thank you, Sonia. I think you really, it was like a perfect note to close the event on, because you mentioned all the things that were mentioned previously, like access to the labor market, basic services, and of course the infrastructure, which indeed makes rural areas more vulnerable to depopulation and so on. So I think we are more or less 5 minutes before the schedule, but I think we've come to an end. So I would like to thank all of you for being here, for your time, the questions that were asked in the chat, and the contributions for the different speakers. I just saw a question in the chat about the presentations. Yes, we will make them available if everyone agrees. So concluding, thank you very much to everyone for your contributions, for the presentations, and for the amazing questions that were asked in the chat. I hope I think that we had like a great mix of policy, research, and on-the-ground experience, and I hope that everyone can take like something new that they have learned today, or new ideas to their own region or organization or community, let's say. And yeah, just to wrap it up, this is the first ESIRA policy event or policy workshop, and we will have more in the future. The next one will probably be by the end of this year, so around November 2025. So just, yeah, we will keep working closely to the local communities, the policymakers, and the researchers to build more resilient, inclusive, and prosperous rural areas in line with the long-term vision for rural areas. And just like wanted you to stay tuned, and we will probably have more information in the following event soon, let's say. So thank you, everyone. And yeah, I think it's almost time for lunch in many countries, so enjoy your lunch. And yeah, hope to see you again in other workshops or events from ESIRA. So thank you,
Thank you for
everyone.
the invitation. All the best. All the best to all of
Yeah,
you.
all the
Thank you.
best. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.